Get ready. It's time. Christina, Catherine, Lisa, Amy, Lauren, and Danny. Welcome to the Cimorelli Podcast.
Hey, I'm Christina.
I'm Catherine.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Amy.
I'm Lauren.
I'm Danny.
And we're Cimorelli.
Welcome back to
the Cimorelli Podcast.
Ooh.
Yay! Hello, Patreon. This is our Patreon-only episode, one of many. You guys are really spoiled. Just kidding. And maybe this is your first time watching it. Probably not. Shout out to all you guys. But if it is, I'm going to tell you this. What? I'm giving them a shout out.
If you haven't watched it before, shout out to all you guys.
Yes, I would like to shout them out. Thank you for watching. Lisa doesn't care, but I do.
Okay.
Anyway, Cimorelli Podcast is where we are here to entertain you guys, uplift you, and share some advice that has changed our lives. We are also going to be sharing some juicy stories, discussing personal topics, and getting vulnerable and real with you guys, and keeping it all entertaining. If you guys didn't notice, we have a special guest here today, which is Ginger Shots.
Gingy Shots.
And this is a company that we've been working with for
years.
a long
Since I was young.
time. They just came out with a bunch of new products, a bunch of new flavors of wellness shots. So I think there's wellness and ginger shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. so there's-
Probiotics and just like health.
it's pretty lit. I'm going to tell you guys a couple things about them so you know, because you're probably like, what is that? Okay, I'll tell you since you asked. I'm going to read you their thing on their website. Okay, so this is what it says. Ginger Shots was created to help people on their journey to better health and wellness. So if you're trying to be more healthy and well, which everyone is, then this is going to help you.
Oh, yeah.
And here's some facts about them. Everything is cold pressed, high pressure processed, no preservatives, certified organic, no GMOs, and kosher.
Wow.
So there's like a million different ones in different flavors. Some of them are not for the faint of heart. Like if you think you can handle it, good for you.
Like
I can
lemon.
for the record, but it's like, whoa. But it's effective. You can taste it.
This
great.
one is not as strong as some of the others, and
Yeah.
I like that it matches my hair and my shirt. But I just tasted this one because I haven't tried this particular flavor yet, and I very much enjoyed it. Blueberry lemon probiotic. We all need those probiotics.
Yeah, I got that one too.
If you don't know what the heck it is, I like to compare it to like when you feel really sick. Or some people do this. When you feel really sick and you go to one of those juice bars or whatever, and it's like $8 for like a wellness shot or whatever. It's
This
like one
is
of
a wellness
those.
shot.
It's not the same exact ingredients, but it's the same thing. Same
It is
idea.
the same idea, yeah. And you know, sometimes if you take like, if you ever done like a wheatgrass shot, it's like, oh, but people do them all the
Because
time
it's got
for
that
health.
ginger in it.
Some of these are
That
like
kick.
that. Yeah, some of them have a kick, and then some of them have none at all. So that's what they are. We're going to jump into today, guys. The topic is emotions. All about emotions. Something I'm very passionate about. I could talk for hours about this, but we will temper ourselves today. We're going to start with the spicy advice Q&A first, though. So, Kath, you want to lead us into this
Lead
one?
us in.
All right, so today's spicy advice question comes from our patron, Danny G. What's up, Danny G?
Danny
Very
G?
active patron. Thank you for that. All right, today's question is, any advice on making the best decisions?
Like how to
Oh,
make a good decision.
I
That's
got
a broad,
this.
broad
Listen,
question.
Okay, first of all, you have to go through your initial process of like, is this completely idiotic? If it is, I'm probably just going to skip
So
it.
that's the first thing.
First,
That
let's
is
get that out of
general.
the way. Oh, on The Office, he's like, Michael Scott told me, what would an idiot do? Or don't be an idiot. He says, don't be an idiot. And every time I do something, I think, would an idiot do this? And if they would, I don't do it. That's
good.
great. So you get that out of the way. Now you're at like kind of a, could go either way,
base
not
level.
sure. With your decision. You're like, I don't know. An idiot might do this, they might not. Then I say to myself, which I've mentioned this in past episodes, I'm going to try this. If you've never done it before, I'm going to try this thing, new hair color, whatever. I'm going to try this new choice that seems a little risky. And if it goes wrong, I'll never do it again. You have to make a pact with yourself to learn. Whatever happens, if it's bad, you'll never do it again. And you have to actually not do it again. Because if you don't, you're just, yeah. But that always helps
I
me a
got
lot.
2 tips. Okay, I got 2 tips. This is a very basic thing, but people really underestimate this, okay? Pro-con lists are
I was going to say that
very
too.
helpful. When you write out the pros and the cons, I remember doing this with my ex-boyfriend. I was like,
A lot of cons.
okay. Also, some of the lists I wrote, I was tricking myself and they made no sense. But try to make them make sense. If they don't, if you have a really honest friend, show the friend and be like, this makes sense, or am I tricking myself? And your friend will tell you, you got real problems. Or they'll tell you that makes sense. So
You're like, wait, on the
pro-con
con list,
lists-
you need to write con. Like he is a con.
Okay. So pro con list,
Okay.
very helpful because you can see it out in front of you. Second thing is when Lisa was saying that, I was thinking, oh yeah. And then I realized sometimes in my life where I was intentionally like making bad decisions because I was like, but I want to do this. So then I'd be like, would an idiot do this? And I'd be like, yes, they would, but I'm still doing it because I want the freedom. I was like, I want the freedom. But then I was like, I came with this thing where I just tell myself like, you're still free to do it. You are free. You are free. And I have to be like, okay,
Yeah.
I am free. I am free.
I want to add.
And then I can move on from trying to rebel against myself,
Yeah.
Mm.
I want to add a more esoteric concept. I feel every time you make, maybe it's for bigger decisions, not really like if you're going to lunch where you're going to go, but like for bigger things, I would say there's always kind of a general feeling inside of you. You want to call it your gut, you want to call it the Lord, you want to call it the universe. I don't know,
Call it your pork belly.
intuition, your pork belly, whatever. Just there's always kind of something inside of you, and most people probably ignore it because they're like, "Oh, that's not real. It doesn't matter," or they don't care, or whatever. But I think it's all pretty much always true. Like when you're doing something, you kind of know whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's good for you or not. You kind of just have a feeling like this thing, like, I don't really think so.
Deep
Yeah,
deep
it's
down.
pretty deep down, so maybe you don't know, but sometimes you do.
can?
Sometimes you do.
You
So
can tune in.
I would say if you
Tune
have a
in.
bad feeling about something, you probably shouldn't do it, and that's a pretty good
Yeah.
compass.
Yeah.
But if you have a good feeling, you don't necessarily shouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily
I'm not
do it.
saying base
Stop doing.
everything off.
Don't
of
do
it.
anything.
Actually, a good rule of thumb is that the bad feeling is kind of a little bit more reliable than the good
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Because
I would agree with that.
people that you're attracted to can make you feel very good, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person. Like,
Is the good
you know,
feel-
that's just an example.
Is the good feeling like, woo, I'm on a roller coaster, feels good? Or is it like, wow, I just ate a, is it like, wow, I just ate a salad and now I feel good?
Oh, yeah, healthy
Is it a-
versus unhealthy.
Is it a peaceful feeling versus a, I could die and fall out of a moving vehicle feeling?
So exciting.
Wait,
yeah.
I agree.
I would like to say, I think one or two things. Can't remember. The one thing I know I want to say is make sure. Actually, no, I remember both of them. First of all, make sure you stop with the lies to yourself. Okay, you got to cut it out. You got to tune in. You got to change the channel. Like if you want to make a decision, be upfront as to why you want to make that decision with yourself. Be like, I want to make this decision because I feel controlled, as Christina was saying. And then be like, well, does it make sense to try to rebel against myself? No. So I'm going to do
I've done
something
it.
else. And then also, cultivate a community of wise people around you who you can bring your decisions to
Mm.
and will tell you that they're good, like not that they're good, but if it's a good idea or a bad idea, and then you will know. And also, because if you have a not very wise counsel around you, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, and you don't know where you're gonna go. You could end up locked in a closet. You don't know.
Like if the
Oh,
people
wow.
around you like look at where they are, if they're also in a bad place and you ask them for how do I go to a good place, they might not know.
And
Maybe they will, but maybe not.
Who and why are you asking? Are you asking because they're gonna tell you what you want to hear or what you need to hear?
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a tough
You
one.
gotta know.
It's a tough one.
That's a lot to chew on. I hope you chew
Yeah.
it well.
Wait, I was
Yes.
gonna say something.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I was gonna say that it's really important to get to a quiet place. Literally a quiet place. Like go somewhere where there is no noise and you're not looking at your phone, you're not listening to something or watching something. Because when you're trying to make a decision in a chaotic environment, especially inside of you, if your inner environment is chaotic, you're going to make a bad decision. And it's pretty much guaranteed. But especially if you go into a quiet place and you pray, God is the source of wisdom and He will show you what to do. If you can be in a quiet place and get to a place of peace, that's where you want to be making your decisions from. Not like, I'm so
Yeah.
scared and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, yeah, that's not going to be a good place to
Gotta
make a
be at
decision.
peace.
Yeah.
So you got to chill, you got to breathe, and you got to listen because I truly believe that every person has it inside of them and they know what to do deep down. They just have to tune into that voice and try to let all of the craziness go.
It's good.
Alrighty.
good
Anything you
words.
want to add about decisions?
Nope, that was a lot.
Yeah, I know you'll have stuff to add for this. All right, we're gonna jump into the topic of conversation. This is a sticky situation, a sticky topic, but I love it. So I'm gonna do my best to. I'm gonna be like facilitating this conversation because it is really sticky, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try our best. So this is all about emotions that we can fit into this time period right here, and I want to start with just saying. no one here is a professional at this or an expert, so don't take our advice over your doctor. Duh.
Good point.
And then secondly, I want to say that there's a ton of misconceptions that you probably say on a daily basis that are actually totally not true if you Google them real quick. You can look up like, does science back this thing up? So many misconceptions about emotions and even actually mental health. I've been really diving into this recently. I'm not going to mention them all today, but there are so many things that the majority of the current population will say as a fact. Not even close. Look it up real quick. You'll find not a fact, been disproven, never been proven, all those things. So if you're saying kind of a lot of things as facts, you should look them up and see. There's, you might think you know a lot about facts about emotions, but actually a lot of it is very, very unknown to even the highest experts in the field. If you read books about like neuroscience and books that talk about like psychology and emotions, a lot of them will tell you straight up, a lot of this is completely unknown. We don't know this, but there's a theory. So keep that in mind. Things are not black and white with this, and they are not proven. But this is some stuff that we've learned over our life experience and our vast research. We have put a lot more research into emotions than your average person. So there's been a lot in here. So we're just going to tell you from our personal experience. So the first thing we want to go into is what are emotions. And I'm going to throw out my like starting topic for each of these things, and then you guys can just riff from there.
Right.
Everyone loves to riff. Okay, so
Scat from there.
I'd like to take credit for that word. I really brought that into the family.
thank you.
No, riff. I always would say I'm just riffing.
So a great metaphor for emotions is emotions are like in your car when there's a light that says like, check
Check
the
engine.
oil, check the engine.
Tire pressure.
Check the tire pressure.
Gas is low.
Your gas is running out. So you know that
Your car is on fire. Just kidding. There's
Okay.
no light for that.
You know how they have all those?
There is a light for that.
They have all
technically.
those, and they're telling you something. They pop up, ding, and you can ignore them or pay attention to them. You could totally ignore them. And then you could have another one, ding, and then another one, ding. And if you keep ignoring them, eventually your car blows up or breaks down on the side of the road. I know someone who didn't get their oil changed for 9 years, and then the car just died. Utterly died. So
Wow,
things
that's
like that can
disturbing.
happen. So your emotion, when it comes up, before we used to think of emotions, I would say, as like, oh, this is a happy feeling or a sad feeling. And it means that I'm having a good day or a bad day. But really, your emotions are, I believe, telling you something, such as, so say the check engine light is telling you to check your engine because something's off there, right? Or you need to like change your oil, whatever it is, right? So when you're angry, it's telling you someone has just crossed a boundary, or you're perceiving that someone just crossed a boundary. So it's telling you, you're angry because that person did something wrong. You need to go do something about this. And it could be you need to like feel the feelings and like get through them, or you need to go talk to that person or something like that. So how would you guys want to expand on how to explain what emotion is using that metaphor for people who are like, what even does that mean? What are they? Tell me an emotion that pops up and what it could mean.
Okay, I would say for me, an emotion that pops up a lot is anxiety. And I think anxiety for me tends to be like kind of almost like a surface emotion for a lot of deeper things going
Wouldn't
on.
the emotion be fear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Rather
really
than
Yeah, but I feel like they're
anxiety.
kind of the same thing. You don't think
Yeah.
anxiety
I guess
is an
I
emotion?
think it make more
I think
sense to
it's
say
fear.
fear.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's an
Okay.
interesting one, actually. I know that no one knows that for sure, but I would guess fear.
yeah.
What would you guess?
I would say fear for me. Yeah, for me, in my experience, I would say when I have a lot of anxiety, then the fear, it's like a lot of fear about the future. And I start to feel like the future is very hopeless based on a current situation. And then everything just starts spiraling. And then suddenly I'm like, I'm going to die. But I think there seems to be a lot deeper stuff going on under the surface there. I feel like the fears that I'm having tend to be like a signal of something deeper. I don't really know that I fully understand what they are, but I do know that a lot of it comes from me like shoving things under that are building up. So I would say, I don't know, I guess anxiety or fear would be a signal that I'm dismissing a lot of other things that need to be expressed and they're building up.
Or maybe that you don't like trust yourself, or that you don't believe in yourself, or like that you have a lack of, You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like if you're scared of the future going wrong,
Yeah, you're like,
then
I can't handle
yeah,
this.
because like the present is not good, and you're like, me as a person won't be able to.
Yeah, I
get
won't be
there,
able
you
to
know what I
handle
mean?
it. I once heard, or I saw a quote or something that said like, and this, I mean, obviously, if you're not a religious person, this doesn't really apply, but I am a very religious person. It said, anxiety is imagining the future without God in it. And I always think about that when I'm having a lot of anxiety. I'm like, I'm totally imagining all this horrible stuff's going to happen to me and I'm not going to be equipped, but that's
Got it.
not even true.
I think I thought of something to make it more simple for everyone actually explaining this. Okay, I just realized I saw this today. An emotion is telling you a belief you have that is either true or not true. If it's true, it means there's something that needs to happen. If it's not true, it means you need to change your belief. So an emotion is telling you, oh my gosh, my future is in jeopardy. I'm
Yeah.
terrified. And you could go, wait, let me look at my current, let me see what's going
Easy.
on. You could write all out and be like, based on what I've been doing, it looks like it's actually not in jeopardy at all. And I'm actually in a good place. Okay, that belief is not correct in this place.
Yeah.
The feeling is not like invalid ever. It's not like your feeling is incorrect. Your belief was incorrect. But maybe it's true. And maybe you go, oh my gosh, this is true.
I'm
I
in
don't-
danger.
I don't have any plan for what to do. And if I follow this current situation, like it looks like I'm not gonna have a good future. So I need to make a plan. Like I need to fix this and let me make a plan. That kind of makes sense, right? A feeling is telling you about a belief that is true or untrue, which
Yeah.
means you need to do something or correct the
And I
belief.
think the reason we say that is because I think the general concept people think is like, oh, you have this feeling. Okay, so get rid of the feeling if
then you're
it's
good.
not true, and then you're fine. Or just express the feeling and then it goes away. And it's like, okay, technically, yes, you could say, I'm not going to feel this right now and shut it off. Some people can do that.
You can do that.
But if you just shut it off or if you just make it go away and think it's gone or whatever, it doesn't change what you were feeling it about. So that's why we say that
like the oil
it's something
still
lower.
needs to be changed.
Yeah, just because you turn off the light doesn't mean that the problem goes away. It's still there. So I think that's why we say that, because it's encouraging people to go deeper
This
than
makes
that.
perfect sense because sometimes when a light on your car comes in, it can actually be wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
It will come on and there's actually like what's it called?
Like the sensor broke or
Yeah,
something.
it's actually like the sensor.
Error.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. The sensor is broken and it sent something that wasn't even true.
Yeah.
So sometimes it goes, oops, there was an error. This was just a belief that you're having that's not even true. That's causing you pain because you believe it.
Yeah, and I want to add to that like I think it's really helpful to figure out for yourself what it means for you when the emotional light comes on. So for me, a quick fix, like not a quick fix, but like something I've realized with anxiety is when I'm having a lot of anxiety about a situation, it's kind of a warning sign that my life is in shambles in general and I am doing way too many things. I've probably overbooked my schedule because I always do that. I haven't really been taking care of myself. I need to reach out to some friends. I need to take some time to myself and slow down. And when I change the way that I'm like living my life and interacting with the world, then the feeling starts to dissipate. Like it's
So
like
you're-
the action needed to be
You're
taken.
saying when it comes on for you, then it's like, slow down. You're not taking care of yourself.
Yes.
So it's telling you, so you could be like scared about your future and then you'd be like, I don't want to think about this. This is too much. I'm going to hang out with more friends and do more things. And then you
Yeah.
like start to feel anxiety. And then you're like, no, I'm scared of my future. I got to hang out with more friends. But then your body's like, you need to stop. But then you're like, no, I'm too scared. But it's telling you you need to stop. And then eventually it could make you sick. So you will stop.
Yeah.
I was gonna say another way to put this into like a picture as an example for me is like if I have a lot of like sadness, and
Just like, sad.
big shock. No, I'm just kidding. It might be a shock to some people. Like my boyfriend will say something that's not a big deal that makes me feel really sad, and I'm like, when you said that, it hurt my feelings, and I'm like, oh, it made me so sad, and I like cry to him all the time about so many things. Bless his heart. But then I examined myself more. I'm like, you know what? I actually think that I got really sad about that because what you said that wasn't even like rude it reminded me of how I feel like a dumb person or something. And he's like, I don't even think you're dumb. I didn't even mean it like that. I'm like, I know. And it shows me like, oh, I felt so sad because I think that I'm dumb and I have this thing that I have to fix. And when I don't see it that way, then that doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. Cause I'm like, oh yeah, I know you didn't mean it that way.
So could
Versus,
everyone
like when my self-esteem is like bleeding, then everything feels like an attack. And it's all these feelings coming up, but it's more that I need to fix something inside.
Can everyone think of an example like that? That would really help illustrate this, which is the emotion helping you to identify what your belief is. So
Oh my god.
let
Yeah.
me give you an example of this. If someone says to you, I just saw this example. Someone says like, you are a purple cow. Then you're like,
my example.
No, I
love
ain't.
saying.
She said purple. This is so weird because what's her name said the same, almost the exact same thing.
I always
That's
say
so weird.
purple cow.
Says you are a purple cow, and you're like,
No, I'm not.
no, I ain't.
Or if you believe you are, then you're like, I am.
Well,
a
okay, well, no
purple
one's
cow.
gonna believe that, so you're just gonna be like, no, I ain't. But then if someone says to you something like, your outfit is really ugly, and you have some insecurities about like, oh my gosh, I already
I
didn't
can't put
feel
together good
too good about
outfits or-
outfits, then you're like, oh, because they said something that you think is true, so you like agreed with them on it, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of that in your life that you could illustrate to people of things that did? Oh, I know. Sometimes if I'll read a comment and it's like, you are ugly. I do not think I'm ugly, so I'm like, no, I ain't.
Yeah.
But when I started YouTube, I wasn't quite as confident, so I'd be like, am I ugly? I never knew if I was or not, but now they're telling me I am. So
Yeah.
now if I see someone say that, I literally am just like,
Oh, I have an example. I was at dinner with some people like a couple of years ago. I feel like I always talk about this story because it was and I was just talking about some of my views on like parenting and things that I've learned. And this one guy at the table was like, well, now that we've all been educated on parenting, and he just said it in this way that it sounded like I was like this pompous windbag who was like lecturing everyone. And I think that is a fear that I have. Like, I think I'm afraid, like, I don't want to sound like I know more than other people. Also, that I'm really insecure about talking too much. So it hit
Oh.
these two, like, core things in me. So, like, even though it was just his own passing comment, it didn't really have to be that big of a deal.
Yeah,
but
you
it
could have
really-
like laughed it off if you didn't care, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, whatever.
but I really believed, like, oh my gosh, he just, like, validated this fear that I have that I talk too much and that I'm, like, lecturing people. And I immediately, like, felt myself shutting down. My body got, like, really, like, cold. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I didn't say anything else for, like, the rest of the dinner. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to stop talking because I don't want to be that person.
An obvious one for me, for myself, you know, which happens frequently, is someone points out I did something wrong, or someone points out that I messed up in any way, and I lose it. I lose my mind, and I feel like the worst person in the whole world, even if the thing I did wasn't even that bad. Like, oh, Danny, you didn't, you forgot to bring this thing, or something like that. Like, I told you to bring this, and you didn't bring it.
Oh, I want to identify, we both kind of are talking about shame. That's, like, the feeling.
Yes. So they're like, you didn't bring this thing. And it's not like anyone yelled at me, or even if they did get a little mad, or like whatever. It's not like anyone's screaming at me and like really giving me a reason to be super sad. So I just get so sad if someone points out that I do something wrong, because I feel if they're pointing out that I'm doing something wrong, then they're acknowledging the belief that I am not a good person, or that I always mess up, or that I will forever
And
be a bad person.
The way to like take that and use it is you go through your day at the end of the day and you're like, what upset me, or what like really triggered me? And you look back on that moment and you're like, okay, did they say, Danny, you're a bad person? Or what did they say? And you're like, oh wait, they said, Danny, you forgot to bring the light, or like the light for the video or whatever. And then you're like, oh, they weren't saying I was a bad person. You have to like reevaluate a little
Yeah.
when you're more calm. And that's how you can actually like move past it, because it doesn't really
Yeah.
help to be weird if you don't really like deal with it.
Yeah.
And in the moment, you could even say, if you're in the beginning of this journey and you're not where you're able to do what Lisa just said in your head, you can do the beginning. Most beginning thing would be to ask the person, hey, when you got mad at me for doing that, were you saying that I'm a bad person because I forgot to bring this? Do you think I'm a bad person because of this? And most likely they'd be like, no, I don't think you're a bad person. If they are, like, yeah, I think you're a trash person. You might want to reevaluate that friendship.
Yeah.
But my point is to say it.
Yeah.
You have something?
Yeah, something that I realized is that I am very critical of myself. Like I've always been very like perfectionist, and like everything I do, it's like never good enough, never good enough. So then anytime anyone even slightly criticizes me, like for instance, if I make like an instrumental for something and then someone's like, oh, I think we should change this part because I don't think like the dynamic is quite right, then I will get really upset because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. But the other person wasn't even saying that. They weren't even talking
You
about
felt
me.
that
They were
way?
just talking about the track. So that's something that I think
Ooh.
everyone who's really self-critical will take any even slight criticism
Yeah.
and just start punching themselves in the face
Yes.
mentally.
And I want to reiterate that when Lauren's feeling those feelings, her feelings are completely valid, because her feelings are telling you, like, you
are
have
too critical.
you have a belief that you're not good enough. They're telling her that you think you're not good enough. Okay, I'm not good enough is what they're telling her. So her beliefs or her feelings are completely valid, but the belief underneath it that she's not good enough because she needs to change something on the track is not.
Yeah.
And
True.
it also doesn't mean that you didn't create an awesome, like a really good track. And even just because one part could be tweaked, that doesn't take away from your talent or whatever. I don't
But
know.
the flip side, here's another one. Here's the flip side. What if Lauren was starting out and her track was not good enough, not her as a person, her track was not good enough for what it needed to be. And then she felt like disappointed about it. And it's like, oh, I want to do a better job. I want to improve this track and make the track good enough. So the disappointment was kind of telling her like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed that I'm not at that place yet and I haven't like put in the time to get to this place. Or maybe you like intentionally didn't that week. Maybe it's like, I know I could have worked on it for a couple hours and I didn't. And then I didn't have the skills I needed to do this. So maybe the disappointment is telling you like, you really want to work harder on this and get better at it. And you're feeling that because of that. So if you ignored it and you're like, no, it was good enough, then it's like you miss an opportunity to be like kind and compassionate and then work on something. But in her case, the compassion was in a different place where it needed to be like, I am good enough as a human being and I'm just going to change something on the track and I'm still good enough. So do you see how it could go either way? It could be telling you you have a belief that's wrong or there's something that needs to be done. Like there's an unmet need that needs to be like filled here. Such as the need for growth. That's like the need for growth. I need to grow as a musician. Get it?
Yeah, and to go into that even more, it's kind of sounds crazy, but I know in my own life, and I've talked to this with other people. I've talked to other people about this as well. But like a lot of times, if you have a belief that you're a failure, you won't put in the effort on something because you're so afraid of failing that you want to tell yourself deep down, like, at least I didn't try. At least I didn't try to my fullest. And if you had tried and failed, that would be too terrifying.
Yeah, it's
I think
okay
that's
that I
something
failed because I didn't put
Yeah,
any effort in.
I know I do that, and I think that's something people do a lot, and I don't think we even realize it, that like we're too afraid to try because we don't want to be a failure so badly.
I had that problem a lot in my life before.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if you would believe that, but I really did. Because then it's like this version of me that they just rejected, this thing that I just did that they rejected, it wasn't really me, so it's not as bad. But if I put my heart and soul into it and they reject it, that means I'm rejected as a human. I'm not good enough. I am a failure. I could take it even further, like I am bad. I am worthless. Like that's what you could really be thinking about it. But those are not true beliefs that you're having. They are beliefs that you have, but they ain't true,
They aren't
right?
bro.
You could believe something that's not true. I've had many beliefs that were not true, like this guy is perfect. A belief that I had was not true, but it was a belief that I really had.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to that really quick because I feel like that's really important because I feel like people might have heard that and said, "Oh, that's me." And I want to say really quick that if you do have that belief of like you're afraid of being a failure, what I've been telling myself lately is, yeah, but what if I got to the end of my life and I didn't even try? What if I got to the end of my life and it just like I kept all the things that I wanted to do and all the talents that I have and the ideas that I have for stories or writing or poems? What if I just kept them in and never shared them? To me, that would be like thinking of myself on my deathbed, you know, when I'm old, and I didn't put it out there versus putting it out there 1,000 times and failing because maybe like it didn't go as I wanted or people didn't like it.
You
I
can't
don't know.
be a failure.
It's to me, it's
Yeah.
more important to take the risk and then to just like be safe and get to the end of my life. And I never
The
tried.
failure thing is a trick. You can't be a failure. You can't. Like, you can fail at something, but that doesn't make you a failure. You're just a human. You're not a failure. It doesn't make any sense. But I don't know where that comes from, but people like fail
it's like
once
the
they're like,
thought that
I'm
like
a failure.
if you're not a millionaire by the time you're 30, all hope is lost. Or it's like, what? First of all, you can make $1 million when you're 60 years old, but also it's not about making money. But there's no point in your life where you've lost hope and now you will progress until you die and just be bad. Like, if you choose that for yourself, yes, that will happen because you made it happen. But there's never any age or any point where like it's too late.
So let's talk about how, when these things come up, how you learn to meet your emotional needs. So this is just like the check like your oil light. It comes on, and then you're like, okay, I gotta check that oil. All right, it's fine. Or, oh, it's low. I gotta refill it, right? So how do you do that with yourself?
Okay.
How do you feel something? If you give me a specific example, it will help more.
Yeah.
Tell me an example of like, you felt this, you realized this, so you did this.
Oh, I have one. I have a great story. Well, it's not a great story, but it's a story. It's a good one. So the other day, I'm not gonna okay, anyway. So the other day, Lisa made a joke that made me cry. And then
Wait, can you say what it was?
Oh,
please?
yeah. Wait, no, now I'm too nervous. But anyway. So Lisa was joking. No, she was joking. And then she was like, I don't remember what she said. Okay, no. She was like, oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I love salami on my sandwiches. And Lauren was like,
Wait,
yeah,
you
me
love
too.
what?
I was like, oh, I love salami on my sandwiches. And Lauren was like,
Oh.
yeah, me too. Lisa's like, yeah, that's why men don't want to date you. And then I cried because that was mean, but she didn't mean
I said
it in
it
a
about
mean
both
way.
of you. It wasn't just
Yeah.
about you.
And like, I
better.
am a very sensitive lad, okay? And that was something that I had been like struggling with. Wow. I don't know why I'm gonna cry now, but that's okay.
It's an
because I cry
emotions
a lot.
episode. Someone had to
Yeah.
cry.
I mean, I cry a lot all the time because I think I have a lot that comes up.
Because you're a human,
Because I'm human.
Yeah.
Exactly.
perchance.
So anyway, and I just like thinking about a lot of stuff makes like, ooh, yike. But anyway, so then I was like, oh, well, this sucks to think like that. So the next morning, I was like, okay, I'm gonna process.
Wait, I want to mention that you were like, hey, that was mean, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, do you really think that
No.
I think that you are single because of your
No.
sandwich order?
And then I was like,
I was
I
trying
know why.
trying to really bring you to reality.
And it's like, I just put too much pressure on myself in like every area. And so I was driving to my church, and then I was like, oh, I actually think this way because of this. Okay, well, I think that this, I think that this, I feel this way, or I feel like I don't want to be, men don't want to date me because of this, because of things that I thought about myself. And then I was like, oh, wait, that's actually a lie. That's not a true statement. So I was going through it, and I was like, oh, actually, I'm a good person. I deserve good things. And I'm actually the one who doesn't want to date any men. So that's my problem. I was like, oh, it's not because I'm bad or I'm a failure or whatever. It's because I don't want to.
yeah.
So
and
then I had to go on another walk and process why I don't want to. So it's
I
a
wanna-
lot of walking and a lot of processing.
I want to point out that the next morning, you were not correcting your feelings.
Yeah.
You were correcting your beliefs.
Yeah.
And like, what do I think about myself? Not, I shouldn't have been hurt about that. Like,
Yes.
you can be hurt about whatever you want to be hurt. And being
Yeah.
hurt is completely valid as we just keep driving home. But the feeling of like, no one wants to date me because I like salami. You have to ask yourself, is that true?
Because it's not even that. Yeah.
Yes. It's the thought,
Obviously.
But
not
it
the
told
feeling.
you, the feeling told you that there was a deep pain in there.
Yeah.
And you figured out what the beliefs were causing that deep pain. What were you
Yeah.
going to do?
And it was great.
had an example?
I was gonna say for
this is about
meeting
meeting
my
the need.
needs. There's two ways. Either I keep them in check before it gets too bad, which is I always use this as a great example. Every time I get in my car, I generally don't turn music on, and I ask myself like, is anything bothering me, or like, am I feeling any certain way? Is there anything I need to think about? And I just take some time to like take stock of what's going on in my head.
Radical.
If everything's fine, I'll just turn the radio on or whatever. And if it's not, I have at least 5-10 minutes wherever I'm driving to just think in the middle of my day and process. It's a great time to do it. I really recommend it. Or sometimes, I'm actually not perfect, you guys. I'm just kidding.
Are you sure?
Sometimes I do let things build up too much, and I have been ignoring my car check-ins or whatever. So I'm like, oh gosh, I'm feeling anxiety, or I'm feeling really down. What's going on? And I take my journal, or if I don't have my journal with me, I take my phone, I open a note, and I just write out everything that I'm feeling, and I really process. And I feel like, I don't know what you call that need. It's like a need for a check-in. I don't know. Is that
Need
what we're
for
talking
time
about?
with yourself?
Yeah, like need for processing time. I don't know. I do one of those two things, and that always gets me back on track.
Oh, wait. I thought of a way to explain needs a little bit more is like kind of everything you think you need from everyone else, you normally need from yourself. So this is radical to me. You need attention from yourself. You need love from yourself. You need
Validation.
connection with yourself. You need to be seen by yourself. We often reject ourselves when we need acceptance from ourselves. We often reject and ignore ourselves. So what she's doing is giving herself like time, attention, maybe compassion,
me, it's
connection.
Taking care of myself, and in a lot of like past relationships, and even sometimes my current one, I'll be like, he's not taking care of me enough or whatever. And it's like, I had to wait a second. I'm not taking care of myself, and I'm like thrusting this need on him where it's like, you need to take care of my emotions. I've only done that a couple times, but it's like, whoa, I start to scare myself. I'm like, that is not his responsibility. And a lot of times if you find yourself like screaming and begging for something from somebody else, it's because you need to be giving it to yourself and you're not.
Yeah, it's like remove the other person from the scenario and you're literally just yelling at yourself.
Ooh.
You're like, you don't trust me. You don't take care of me. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh. Like, put a mirror there.
Yeah.
You're like, yike.
When we were on tour a couple years, it was like 3 years ago, I read this book. It was called Opening Up the Healing Power of Expressing Emotions by, I think it was Dr. James Pennebaker. It's in my room. I just saw it today and I thought of it. But it's a really good book, highly recommend. But it's fascinating because he did all these different studies on emotions, and he proved from like multiple different studies that people's health improved by simply talking about a traumatic or like difficult situation they went through with another person, like a friend. Like literally their health improved, and they measured it. It's crazy. But I know for me, when I'm feeling a lot, I tend to get in my head, and my head, it can be a very scary place because my head can be very like fearful and obsessive. Like I just kind of tend to go to like the worst case scenarios a lot. And a lot of times simply talking about a situation with one of my friends helps me so much, or like a mentor. Like I have some like older women friends that I will go to for advice, and just sharing and being like, hey, I'm going through this situation. This is how I'm feeling. Like, what's your take on it? Just kind of like talking it out and mirroring it with someone else. They can just be like, whoa, like this is not as crazy as it sounds. Like it's not as dramatic as it sounds. Like this is what I'm seeing, and just getting it out of your head and talking with another person, like someone that you can trust. You have to know who's like a safe, because you don't want to talk to someone that's just going to make it worse. I've definitely done that before, and that's not a good idea. But yeah, talking to like friends and mentors that can process with you is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Anyone else on that one before I go to the next topic?
Yeah, okay. This is kind of like a lot in one story. So I always had a problem expressing anger. Most of my life, I was like, I mean, I don't really get mad. Like, get glad, you know? No, I was like, I don't get mad. Like, I just get sad. And I realized that is not a real thing. Everyone gets mad. I was just suppressing it. So when I started getting in touch with my anger, I was like, I don't know what this is. Like, let's take a look, figure out where that is, what it looks like. Don't know. I started realizing that I was angry more than I thought. And I am a very like naturally conflict averse person. So I think that's why I suppressed anger so much, was because my anger was telling me, hey, you have a problem with someone right now. And
You're like, no, I don't.
yeah, and I was
really
like, no, I
don't,
don't, no, I don't, no, I don't. I'm not mad. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And so I realized, like, for instance, I would be mad at one of my sisters after we did like a work day where I felt like I wasn't being like listened to, right? Like I had an idea and I felt like people like rejecting it. But the real issue there, well, okay, so then I would be mad, but then I'd be like, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And then I would never fix that issue. But then when I started realizing it, then I realized that it was like a double feature, because it was one, I was being unseen and unheard by my own self, because I wouldn't even listen to what I was trying to tell myself. And two, I was being unseen and unheard by another person. So it was two things that my anger was telling me. There was one, you need to pay attention to yourself. And two, you need to talk to this person and like talk through the issue. So that was like two needs in one scenario.
And
So then what did you do to pay attention to yourself?
I stopped ignoring it, even though I was scared of the feeling. And I was like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? I was like, okay, I'm mad. And I was like, okay, I'm really mad. And then I start like just being mad with myself, you know, like yelling in my car or whatever, and like being over dramatic about it, like, they never listen, blah, 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 blah. And then be like, okay. And then come down and I'm like, hey, what's the real truth of the situation? And then I have to go talk to the person and be like, hey, when you did XYZ, it hurt my feelings. And then they're like, oh, I didn't even mean to or whatever. Like, so I just let the feeling come and let it tell me what it's trying to tell me. And then did what it was telling me to do.
Yeah.
Took action.
That
We're gonna wrap
also,
this up.
last thing, that reminded me of the fact that we disrespect our own boundaries all the time and we don't even realize it. Like when we're mad at ourselves or when we're like booking too much, when we're like not listening to ourselves, not seeing ourselves, like not putting ourselves out there, disrespecting our needs. Like we do it all the time. We don't even know. So that's the first step is to be
True.
like, okay, what am I doing for myself? How am I treating myself? How am I like, yeah. So that's what I was going to say.
Okay, cool. The last part to go into, and we're not going to go too far in this. This will go on for a while, but maybe we could do an episode that touches more on this. And this is stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. This is a very common problem we have where someone says, "You made me feel this way," which is not true. It could be like maybe you triggered something in me. Like, okay, what you did triggered me. That's kind of it. But they didn't actually go in your brain and like make the emotion happen. Like you can't do that for someone else. You could go someone and you could hurt them physically and you can make the bruise happen. Like I bruised you, but you can't go in there and like make an emotion happen. You can't do that.
I like what someone said earlier where you're like, no one can make you hungry, where it's like, oh, you're eating that sandwich, it's making me so hungry. That sandwich is just making you realize that you're hungry, you know?
Yes.
Like you were already hungry.
Wait,
they can't make you
I
hungry.
thought of a better way to say this that goes with that. Okay, so you go to two different people. I could go to Lisa and someone I don't know, and I could say, Lisa, you are a failure in life and a horrible person. So I'm her older sister. She'll be like, oh. If I go to a random person in public and I'm like, you failed at life, they'll just be like, what? But if I go to both of them and I punch them in the arm, it's going to bruise both of them. But only one of them is going to be affected by what I'm saying because they have a relationship with me. So I can't make any person feel anything. It depends on what she believes about me and about herself. Does that make sense? So I guess our main thing is we know that a lot of you guys, from what you've told us, you take on other people's emotions so strongly, and you also give people the like power or responsibility for your own emotions. Like they're responsible for making me feel good, or I'm responsible for making them feel good or taking care of them emotionally. So we want to, I guess the main thing we're trying to say is you're not responsible for anyone's emotions but your own. Does anyone have anything you can add to that before we go to the last part of like our recommending our books?
On a smaller scale, like, you know, here's one where I'm driving with my boyfriend and then he'll like miss a turn. He always gets stressed out driving. He's like, oh, now we're gonna be late. And before I would just be like, sometimes I would take it on. I'm like, oh no, he's freaking out or whatever. But now I always detach and I'm like, wow, he really cares about being late or whatever. But like, I don't care. It's like, okay, if I myself care about that too, I can care. Like, oh no, we're gonna be late. But if I don't care about getting to this place at the exact right time or whatever, I'm not gonna make myself feel that just because he feels it. Like if I don't care, I don't need to care just because he cares. And I can be relaxed right now and not take on his stress. And that really helps me.
Yeah, and I realized that I was taking on taking on the responsibility of other people just being okay. Like in my brain, subconsciously, other people weren't allowed to be hurt or to feel negative things. Like, because that hurt me, because I was like, oh no, if they're hurt, they're gonna die, and I'm gonna die, and we're all gonna die.
So you're like, I better make sure they're not hurt.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for making sure they're
Yeah.
not hurt.
Protect
And
them.
and even if they just were feeling it, I'd be like, ah, and I just freak out, and
I
then
better
I'd shut
change.
down.
I better change this
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
You're, like,
Hey, can I
mad
make you
at them.
happier?
Yeah. And then I had to realize, like, oh, people can be, quote, not okay. And that is their responsibility, and they're going to be fine.
And
And
you
that's
can
not
be there.
bad.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can be there for them and like, you know, lend a helping
Support.
hand, but you don't have to take it on as if like, oh
It's
no,
not
their
mine.
life is in shambles, so my life is in shambles.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they have to save
yeah,
themselves.
there's not like a negative and a positive thing. Like, people don't have to be happy all the time. It's wildly okay to feel angry, mad, sad. Like, well, that's angry, mad, the same thing. But it's okay to feel
Angry and
emotions that we have designated as negative because they're not actually negative. They're
Mhm.
all
They're just a
the
light.
same. Yeah.
That goes perfectly into the last point before we recommend books, which is just a point of you're not a rock. There's a book called that, You're Not a Rock. So it's like you're never going to stop feeling these things. It's like your car's never going to not turn those lights on because your car's never going to be able to go without gas or changing the oil or making sure that everything is running right. It's just not possible. So the lights are always going to be popping up for you. They're always going to be there, but it's okay because you're not a rock. A rock would not get angry, but you are not a rock. A rock would not be stressed about this right now, but you ain't a rock. So I remind myself of that a lot. I'm like, you know what? if I'll be like, oh no, I shouldn't be sad. I'm like, you know what? A rock wouldn't be sad, but I am
I'm
not a rock.
And
So
you know, and I
I
want
can
to
be
say
sad.
the author of that book, I just looked it up to make sure it was right, is Mark Freeman. I read the book and gave
So
it to
that's
her.
first
Yeah.
recommendation.
First recommendation is You Are Not a Rock by Mark Freeman. It's amazing book on mental health and like kind of like mental fitness too, which I know is kind of a weird concept if you don't understand it, but it
That
makes
book's a
sense.
deep one though, so I wouldn't recommend it as your first one. If you're just getting into this world, I would not recommend that first.
Oh.
Do not read that one first. You'll be like,
I-
what the heck?
Sorry. I would recommend first to read What You Feel You Can Heal
By
by, is it John Gray?
John Gray.
John Gray.
I think maybe even before that one, I would recommend Brene Brown. I think Daring Greatly might be the first. I don't know which one of hers I would recommend first.
That one.
Probably
That one,
Daring
I
Great.
would
Yeah,
say.
because she gets into emotions like from the beginning there. That is like life and emotions 101. That changed my entire life, my career, my relationships, literally changed everything about my life. Like literally everything about my life. It's probably the number one book I would ever recommend because it's the most like baseline, but it also goes super deep at the same time. It's like, it's for everyone. So Daring Greatly, Brene Brown's the first one I would recommend. What You Feel Can Heal, definitely recommend that. You're Not a Rock, I recommend that. It's hard because some of mine are a little bit too deep. And a lot of them are so controversial because they're all theories. So they really go, they're really counter to today's culture, but they're counter to it with science. So it's hard to, maybe that might be a little too controversial. So maybe I'll keep something to myself for now.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
Anyone
I
else
think the
wanna
ones
do
we
any others?
mentioned are
actually
good.
have two
Oh, I
other
have one.
ideas. Oh, you go first.
After you read Daring Greatly, then you should read Rising Strong by Brene Brown, which is
yes.
basically about like what to do when you're kind of like kicked down by life and in the throes of things, how to like stand up and get out of it and without just like ignoring the feelings, like getting through all of that. It's really
Oh.
good.
It's so good. It like helped me. I need to reread it. I need
It's
to reread it
so
like
good.
now.
I just read it.
I want to read. I want to read it. I
Anyone
haven't read
else?
it.
Any recommendations?
These ones actually. This one, not these. This one's actually.
These ones?
These two are business books technically, but they're
Oh.
not. The first one is Who Moved My Cheese, and the second one is Out of the Maze. Now these are really easy. Like
you could read them in an hour.
you could
They're
literally
a
read
bunch
them in
of
an hour,
pictures.
and it's a bunch of pictures and very little words. And it's about basically your beliefs and how they work and how you react when things change and how that affects you. And it's the most simple concepts in these books. It's honestly kind of hard to explain, but you read them and your brain feels unlocked. Like
Yeah.
you're like,
Love that.
whoa.
Amazing. All right, guys. That's all we got for those recommendations. And we're now going to move on to Sister Spotlight. And we're going to lighten the mood.
Yay.
So, Sister Spotlight is where we each have a different, segment. And these include Lauren's Take, Your Real with Christina, Sappy Thoughts with Kath, Amy's Current Crisis, Exposing Lisa's Past, and Danny's Love Hate List. And this week it is ding! Danny's Love Hate List.
Yay!
And the topic today is meats.
Guys, I watch this and I die of laughter every
What,
time
my
I'm
love
in
hate
my
list?
room, like watching it, and I die. I
Can't
just
help it, I'm
Laugh
just an
so
entertainer.
I
much.
gotta do this for this segment.
Okay.
Let's
So
hear it,
here's
Dan.
the deal, guys.
My meat
I
glass.
do this segment because I have very strong opinions about a lot of things. It always ends up being food because I have very strong opinions about food. But at some point here, I will get to something that's not food, I promise. But it's food this week, yet again. So I'm a very picky eater, as Catherine loves to point out.
I do. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you love talking about it. And it's not just like I'm like, oh, I don't like vegetables. Or I'm like, oh, I don't like fruit. It's like, oh, I like this fruit, but not this fruit. And this fruit when it's made like this one. And this one when it's not like this. It's very specific. So this week, it's going to be Danny's Love Hate List, the meat edition. So the reason why I do this, and people are just bewildered by this, is because I very specifically love and hate meat. And I hate the same kind of meat that I would like. Wait. The same kind of meat, I would hate it one way and love it another way. Okay? Doesn't make sense.
Wild.
Okay.
So I just want to say, first and foremost, I love beef. I love it. Okay? There's no way you can make beef and I won't like it. Right? So, like-
it's expired.
Okay.
Oh,
sure.
That does not
So
count.
wait, I just need to clarify because I might be wrong. It's like burgers and ground beef
Oh, the only thing I think of is beef
and
stew. I don't think
oh,
you like that.
Beef stroganoff.
But I'm talking about just
I was gonna
straight
say
up
pulled
beef.
pork, and then I realized.
Love
beef
beef
stew.
No, I really hate beef stew, but I'm talking without anything on it, just the straight up meat, okay? And maybe a little seasoning or something.
Okay, you love beef.
Love beef. Okay, I just want to put that out there. But that is
Got
the one meat that I will say I love it in pretty much any form. Love chicken, obviously. Who doesn't love a good chicken? But if it has bones, I will not touch it. So a chicken breast, is that it? A boneless, skinless chicken
Or
breast.
there's boneless
Or boneless
thighs
Or
too.
no, absolutely not. I hate dark meat.
What?
Okay, so there you go.
Okay.
I like light meat. I like boneless. I like skinless, and that is
You
it.
basically just like boneless,
That's it.
skinless chicken breast.
So
that's
like
all.
if you give me some chicken wings, I won't eat them because first of all,
What?
it's like it's a waste of meat. Like I feel like I can't even finish the whole thing because I'm disgusted at it, and it's like ugh. Like I'll like some of it, the nice light meat or whatever, but I hate the rest of it, so I can't have it. And that's a whole other thing. But anyway, don't like that. Don't like chicken if it has bones, and I don't like chicken cooked in the oven. But I like chicken, and I don't like chicken really cooked on the barbecue. But I like it cooked on the stove.
what do you like, an open fire?
I like it cooked on the stove. Okay.
You know, I can relate to that.
Right? Okay.
Stove cooked chicken.
This is my
Grilling
next.
makes everything taste good.
That's not true. Not chicken.
Oh my.
Next is love pork. Or wait, hold on. Like pork. Sorry, I said that wrong. I like pork, but only if it's pork chops. Is that weird? Like,
What about pulled pork sandwiches?
He hates
oh,
that.
I
hate
love
pulled
those.
pork sandwiches. I don't really know what other forms of pork there are. I guess if it's like
Isn't pork like hot dogs?
chicharrones is like pork skins or something, and that's like fine. But like I just will really, really love. This is why I think it's weird because I love a good pork chop,
Pork tenderloin.
but I
I don't
hate
know what that is.
pulled pork. What's a pork tenderloin?
I don't know, but I've eaten it.
I don't know. Also,
I'm not really a meat person.
all
I don't
right,
really
this is
understand
not
it.
your segment. Fun fact: when I was a kid, I would run out saying pork all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I literally run to someone say pork and then run away. So much so that I gave it up for Lent one year.
You gave up saying
I
pork.
gave up saying pork, and it was really hard. That's just a side note. Okay. Moving forward, we're pretty much at the passionately hate part.
Oh, I love this.
So
part.
as you can see, there's only a few select meats that I really, really love. I hate ribs. I hate them with a passion.
Oh, I
Sorry,
know
sound person. I hate ribs. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Do not put a barbecued rib near me. Do not put barbecue sauce near me unless it's like a nice steak and you dip it in some barbecue sauce or something. Oh, I can get behind that.
Isn't a steak a
Put some-
beef? That goes back to the
Put some-
beef thing.
go back
You
to the
love
beef.
beef.
Put some barbecue sauce on a burger, sure, but only if it's barbecue sauce and ketchup, not just barbecue sauce. That's gross.
Oh, I
Okay?
agree.
Sure, but keep it away from me if it's sweet baby back ribs or barbecued ribs and it's all crumbly and crispy. That's what I hate. I hate the smoky, crispy fire taste. Okay? I hate it. I hate it. Okay? And it freaks me out that it's this weird color and the bones are this ugly shape. And it's even worse than chicken wings. I'd rather eat chicken wings than ribs any day. Dad. Ugh. Okay, moving along. I like turkey.
Good.
That's it. But specifically on Thanksgiving. And
Do you like lunch meat turkey?
no.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Unless it's in like a really good like sandwich.
A deli meat?
Sure, like a good deli meat like from
Come on,
Publix.
Jersey
Like the thick,
But-
the thick turkey.
I don't know.
lunch meat?
Oh, I like the turkey with pepper on it.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but not other turkey. Okay. Last one. I might be forgetting some because I kind of forget what the animals are. I guess I forgot about hot dogs are fine
Didn't say
sometimes.
anything about-
Unless
Not
they're
technically
boiled.
meat.
Do not
Oh
get
my
a boiled
gosh.
hot dog
Yeah,
in my
I
house.
agree.
You will not catch me, dead or alive, making a boiled hot dog, okay? But you know what?
Catch you dead making a
But you
boiled
know what? But you know, shh. You know what? Put a hot dog on the grill, fire it up, put some ketchup on it, not with a bun. Just eat it, cut it up.
See, you were giving me a hard time for saying you're picky, but I hope you see
It's
why.
great, okay? And the very last one I will say is I despise ham. I hate it so much. Ham is horrible. One time I was in Spain and I said, ¿Cómo se dice ham is a sin? And then the Uber driver told me, jamón es pecado. And I stand by that. I stand by it. I will always stand by it. Ham is
Wait,
a sin.
What about bacon?
I was gonna say, what about bacon?
can't forget
Okay,
that.
there you go. So there we go with the pigs. It's like, okay, sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're not. I like
Here we
bacon.
go with the pigs.
I like bacon for the most part, unless you throw it in something that it doesn't belong in, okay? People are like, oh, I'm a bacon in a salad or in a mac and cheese or in some random thing that doesn't belong with.
It goes in mac and cheese.
You all need to shh. Keep it closed. This is about my opinions, not about your weird taste buds, okay? Bacon is good for breakfast. Bacon is good in a frittata. Bacon is good
What about
in
burger?
quiche. Love quiche. Bacon in a burger is okay. But when you throw it into places it doesn't belong, it
What
brings
about a bacon
this
wrap date?
disgusting smoky taste, like I said, to somewhere that it shouldn't be. A bacon wrap date, stay away from me. Stay away.
Sounds good.
That is a date
I
I will
love
not
that.
be going on, okay?
Now I see we need to do like a Danny tries different foods video.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh.
I feel
That
that'd
would
be
be
kinda gross.
Danny critiques different foods, and we'll have a bacon wrap date. That's
I won't
perfect.
do it.
All right.
Yeah.
If you guys like that idea, let me know because I think it's brilliant.
So yeah, ham is gross. Most meat is gross. I just find it disgusting. Okay, I forgot one thing. Italian meats. Any Italian meat is amazing. Any
Capicola.
Italian meat,
Salami.
I will eat.
Thank goodness.
Whatever,
Salami.
whatever.
Okay, that's great, guys. We're done. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you, Danny. That was very interesting. We'll
That
see you
was-
guys in our next episode, which is all about dating. So, you guys, Patreon, you're going to see this a week early. I already know it's going to be juicy. And let me just
real
take a little
juice.
look-see at the end of it. Oh, okay. Next two episodes, we have Lauren's take,
Lauren speaks.
and then we have Lisa. So
Yes, I'm so excited for Lisa.
get ready for the next two episodes. Get ready. Yeah, get ready for the next two episodes.
It's time.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you in the next
Bye.
life. Bye.
You've been listening to the Cimarelli podcast. Follow Cimarelli on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. You can also find Cimarelli on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat.